How many times am I gonna say Is this gonna be a problem? I think it might be. One of my favorite things to do when I'm bored and on the internet is to go to Reddit and scroll around the forum called Am I the A-hole? And I'm sure that if you're also a chronically online and nosy little freak like I am, then you probably like to do the same thing. But if you have never ventured to that part of the internet, then it's essentially just an open forum where people can post their stories where some kind of conflict, either large scale or minor, occurred, where they're unsure if they were in the right or if they were in the wrong. It's then up to the public to read the story and then determine the fate of the poster, either saying NTA or not the a-hole, or condemning them to a life of being humbled en masse on the internet and being crowned a big old asshole in the comment section. And if there's one community I can think of that has its fair share of conflicts, it's the Warhammer community. Sorry. So I decided to reach out and ask the wider Warhammer community to share with me their stories which had them wondering, did that really happen? And even, was I the bad guy there? And oh boy, did you guys pull through. My inbox has literally been flooded with hundreds of stories which range from, okay, you kind of sound like you're an alright person but had a terrible time, to, oh no, you're probably not a good guy, what do I do? So today I'm gonna read you some of the weirdest, funniest, and maybe the most dividing stories that were submitted, so that me and you can decide once and for all if these poor souls should be exonerated of their sins, or if they are just big Warhammer assholes. Let's find out. Whoosh. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to just say a massive thank you to everyone who submitted a story to me. Like I said, I received hundreds of them, and I promise you I took the time to read every single one. And I just kind of really enjoyed doing that as well, so yeah, thank you all so much. On top of that, some of the stories which were submitted were very long, so for the sake of keeping this video around 20 minutes long-ish, I decided to cut them down but still have them make sense and reflect the original story. So if you're watching this and you think, that's my story but it's not quite my wording, then I apologize, but that's why. But yeah, please join in with this video in the comment section below, because usually the way these videos work is there's like 2 or 3 people that hear the story and they kind of keep each other's opinions in check, and I'm all by myself. So if you think I've been too fair on someone, or maybe unfair and they are the asshole, or I don't know, whatever, let me know in the comment section and we can all have a talk about it. And if you have your own Am I the Asshole story, then please pop it down there too. But without further ado, let's read our very first Am I the Warhammer Asshole story. Okay, starting with a relatable one, I think, but only because I feel like I'm that guy in this story. Let's read it. Months ago, I called out someone in our Warhammer gaming group for repeatedly bailing on games at the last minute. I found out after the fact that it's because they have crippling social anxiety and they've not shown up or spoken in the group chat at all since. I feel really bad, but where everyone was moaning about them, I was the only one that actually said anything to them directly. Am I the a-hole? Okay, so this is a tricky one to navigate for sure. To make it about myself for just a minute, even though I'm here on YouTube, like doing my thing, have quite bad social anxiety, or at least social battery. And I'm definitely the bailer of all my friend groups and even gaming groups, so I kind of feel for both people in this situation. I'm gonna say a very gentle, you're not the a-hole here, because I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm assuming by the fact you said you called them out, then you did it well and not in a bad way. But maybe you didn't, and that's something that you feel bad about, so also potentially you might be the a-hole here. But softly. soft a-hole. Hindsight in these kind of situations is always so easy for us on our impartial little high thrones, so we can all be here being like, well, I would have done it differently and I would have said something differently, and that's easy for us. But it's not always like that for a person experiencing things in the moment, and we have to be really understanding that maybe they get things wrong, and that's okay sometimes. But saying that, in this situation, if they were flaking at the last minute consistently and it was getting annoying for me and my friends, I definitely wouldn't have called them out so much as like tried to talk to them first. Maybe slide them a DM which says, hey buddy, I've noticed that you've not been turning up to your games recently. Are you okay? It's totally fine if this is all getting too much. We can rearrange. We just want to know in advance, but absolutely no pressure. No one's mad at you. It's totally fine. We just want to know if you're okay. And I know this may seem like a lot of like pandering and extra effort to make for someone who has been so flaky, but trust me, as a socially anxious person myself, that's the kind of thing I would want to hear, and that's the kind of thing I'd respond to, I think. Maybe next time, instead of calling them out, just send them a message or talk to them directly like you would anyone else. And if you did do that, then good for you. You are not the a-hole, you did everything correctly, but maybe just follow up with another friendly text to ask if they're okay, just for good measure anyway. So this is another one where I'm like, this could probably have been fixed just by talking, but maybe I'm wrong and I want to know what you guys think, so let me read it. So I've been entering local painting competitions for a long time, and I actually won a few times in a row, about 4. Congratulations. And I think the owner of the shop hosting the competition was a little fed up with me, but he didn't tell me outright that he didn't want me to enter again, so when I tried to enter again, he kept changing the rules, so I had to keep redoing my entry to put me off entering. Wow. But am I the a-hole because I kept changing my model and entered it anyways and ended up winning again? I haven't entered since, but it was more of a petty way because I would rather them tell me I can't enter than change the rules to sabotage my entry. Not the first time either. I lost a competition once because he changed the rules on basing after all the entries were in. This has been weighing on my head for a while. This is a wild story. I'm not sure if I'd call either party in this situation the a-hole, unless this store owner is literally evilly trying to sabotage your painting competitions, because that would be somewhat untoward, but I definitely think no one's helping the situation recover here, and that everyone just needs to sit down and get their thoughts and feelings out their heads and just kind of talk to each other. So next time there's a painting competition and you want to enter it, I'd go up to the store owner and I'd be like, hey bud, what's going on here? I know I've won a competition a few times. Do you not want me to enter because you want to give some people another chance? I'm totally okay with that. I'd be maybe a little bit bummed out by that, but if that's the case, then let me know. I just want to know where we stand here. These kinds of conversations are tough and no one really likes doing them and they're a little bit yucky, but right now it sounds like you're in a weird Warhammer painting competition Cold War, and if he keeps moving the goalposts without telling you, then that's just kind of weird, and I just think everyone should be an adult and just have a conversation about what their intentions are. And if you do that and he doesn't listen and doesn't want to talk like an adult and he keeps doing freaky stuff, then at least you'll know you tried and you are a baller painter, so win-win for everyone. Except him, he's freaky. Am I the a-hole for having 4,000 points of orcs and never playing a game with them? No, because that would also make me the asshole, and I'm not ready to admit that yet. One day, orcs. One day. Ooh, I like this one a lot because I think I know where I stand on it, but I don't know if I like where I stand on it. Let me explain. I'm in a tournament and my opponent rocks up with an Eldar army, but with a difference. The entire army was completely proxied, with Wizard of the Coast Star Wars pre-painted figures, and to top it off, his Wraith Knight was a plush Yoda toy. I refuse to play. Am I the asshole? Woo. So I'm gonna say in this case, you're not the asshole. asshole, but it's kind of a tricky one for me because I'm usually really chill about proxies and stuff like that. Like, there was this guy at my old local, and he had a Space Marine My Little Pony army. And whilst, like, morally questionable, I was like, pop off Twilight Sparkle, you purge those heretics, let's go. But this guy literally sounds like he made zero effort, like pre-painted miniatures and a Yoda plush toy Wraith Knight. I think I hate that. I think it's fair to say I do not like that to my core. And not only that, but this is like a tournament setting as well. It's not like your friendly local gaming store where the day before you have a game with this guy, he rocks up and he's like, hey dude, gotta tell you something. I'm a freak. I'm a freak, there it is. I'm a little freak, and I'm gonna turn up to our game tomorrow with a bunch of stuff that my mum let me keep when I moved back into her house after the divorce, and that's just who I am. Let's have fun. Let's go. And that gives you the opportunity to be like, no, absolutely not, I hate that. Or be like, you know what, Steve, you've had a tough year. Let's get your Anakin Farseer on the board and just have fun with it. Like, you have the choice to say yes or no, but not in a tournament setting. You kind of don't have the choice. And what's worse, now that I'm thinking of it, is that you actually paid money to be there. And usually people pay money at tournaments to have like a good experience with some immersive gameplay against nice opponents. At least that's kind of the plan, right? I'm sure some people would be totally okay with it, and I think myself, because I'm too polite, I would probably be like, okay, and then just get on with the game, but I can completely understand you refusing to play. I do not think you're the asshole here. Okay, this is a good one. Got my Dune Cup, let's keep going. When I was 16, my friends and I qualified for the Lord of the Rings Strategy Battle Games School League Finals at Warhammer World. We placed second the year before, and we were hoping to win this time. After a few losses, we were confident that we had done enough to win, because points were awarded for wins, sportsmanship, painted objective markers, and having everything tournament ready. A team that had won most of the games didn't have any points for painted armies or their own gear, so we thought that we were in the clear. When the winners were announced, we were shocked to be placed third. Oh dear. The organizers decided to ignore bonus points and only count wins, which cost us the top spot. Our teacher tried to argue, but the other teachers sided with the organizers, and since we were aging out of the league next year, we were devastated. Now, this is where we may have been the a-holes. When we faced the winning team, we couldn't hold our tongues. I told them they shouldn't have won and refused to shake their hands. Looking back on it now, I think we were probably the assholes for reacting that way, though I still believe the organizers were wrong for changing the rules at the last minute. Ooh, yeah, sorry buddy. I think you may be the asshole here. Okay, first of all, and very importantly, I think I need to say that it's okay because you were so young. You were like 16. I don't know how long ago this happened, but I used to see the school leagues coming into Warhammer World when I worked there, and I was literally like, these are tiny babies. So you are a child, and when children are young, they're dumb, so you've got that going for you at least. But yeah, this whole thing feels a little bit off to me, especially who you decided to finally vent your frustrations at, and we'll get round to the organizers later, but for now, I think it's super fair to say that it wasn't your opponent's fault that they won. It's not like this group of kids turned up to like conspire against you and bend the rules to do you in. It sounds like they just turned up to have a good time, and they played the game and they scored the most points, and then they were awarded the winner. And then for you guys to take that away from them by saying you didn't deserve this and not shake their hands, yeah, I'm afraid to say that's a little bit assholey, but it sounds like you have come to that conclusion yourself, and good for you for having some self-reflection on that. That's good. Now, as far as the organizers and even the teacher who brought you there are concerned, I'm afraid to say there's a possibility that you guys may be double assholes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but it's true. I'm sorry. Usually these kind of tournaments will have things called event packs, and in those packs you get kind of like the missions you're going to be playing, the standards for armies, and yes, the criteria that it will take to win. And if the tournament made that pack, and if you guys didn't read it, then I'm afraid that's kind of on you and it's not the organizer's fault. I don't know. However, that may not have happened, and they may have just updated the rules then and there was a miscommunication or something, but either way, this kind of sucks for everyone, and I'm sorry if you're watching this that your final School League game ended on such a bad note. And again, if you are watching this and you're feeling like the asshole right now, then stop feeling like that, because you were a kid and kids are dumb and they make dumb mistakes, and you should forgive yourself, because we all forgive you too. Am I the a-hole for blocking someone on Instagram after they commented on a very vibrant Gaunt Summoner paint job to say, next time try using some contrasting colours? No, I don't think you're the asshole here. It's totally fine to block whoever you like, and no one's legally obligated to have a weird list of arbitrary reasons to block someone. You can just go based on a vibe. It's totally fine. Even if they just pissed you off a little bit and you think they're gonna do it again, then just block them. Like, no one's entitled to your personal internet space. Just curate it the way you like. That's totally fine. Man, I think this next one kind of sucks a little bit for everyone. Me and a friend helped build up a bit of a small growing group of new 40k players in our local gaming store. Most of these people were teenagers or young adults. A person joined our group with the premise of helping new players learn to play when me and my friend weren't available. When the club's numbers started to drop, we became a little bit concerned, and we found out a few weeks later that when we weren't there, he was bringing net lists to games with people whose army consisted of a combat patrol and a starter set, and was stomping them in a single turn. One of the parents even told me that he was so bad that he made his son cry. Oh dear. We politely but firmly asked him to play a little bit more in the spirit of learning the game, to which his response was pretty passive-aggressive. Because of this, we told him he wasn't welcome unless he could bring appropriate army lists and drop his bad attitude. A few of his friends, regulars in the store, all accused me of bullying and asking him to play a bit more nicely with the new players, all because he had recently lost his job. As a result, me and my friend got a bit of a telling off by the staff at the store, who all sided with the sob story told by the other player, and one member of staff told me I was a dick for being so mean to X whilst he was struggling so badly. Ooh, okay. So unlike a lot of the stories which I read, which were people being like, this guy brought a bad vibe to the club, so I just stomped him in my next game, it sounds like you actually did the right thing by trying to politely talk to him about the situation, so good job there. But what's not so good is people like this, who don't know how to tailor their lists in order for their opponents to also have fun in a game. This is something I've talked about before when I talked about competitive players versus that guy's in the shop, and especially if this guy is being paired into new people and young players, then that's no good at all. That's not fun for anyone. And this is something which should be fixed by just having a good, frank, adult conversation with someone about their behavior and about how you'd like them to conduct themselves around new players and children. And it sounds like you did that, so in this case, I'm gonna say you are not the asshole. Congratulations. And I'm sure if during this conversation that you had with him, if he was like, hey man, I just gotta let you know I'm not quite myself, I'm struggling a little bit with my work and social life, then you would have been extremely understanding of that. But at the end of the day, this is a grown adult that we're talking about, and he is still responsible for the way he conducts himself whilst in public spaces. And if his actions aren't quite in keeping with the social construct or the social standard that keeps that space happy and friendly and functioning for everyone inside it, then he's also kind of responsible for being told as such and then taking that criticism on board. And as a grown-up, it's up to him to kind of say, hey, that's not the way I want to play my games, I'm gonna go somewhere else, or say, I'm sorry, I've been struggling, I really appreciate everyone's support here and coming to this gaming space, I'm gonna change my behavior. But again, this whole situation kind of rests on me assuming that you handled it with respect and politeness and you weren't bullying the guy like the store owner says, but I'm gonna assume that you did do that, so in this case, you're not the asshole, I don't think. My regular opponent will stop mid-game/dice roll to call the Warhammer shop and argue the rules if he doesn't like the way things are going. At this point, the games are just painful. I mean, he is definitely the asshole here, and you should be playing no more games with this person, I think. But at the same time, it's kind of a power move, and I sort of love it. I don't know. Okay, I think we have time for one more, and I think this one's really interesting and I want to know what you think of it, so I'm gonna read it. I was attending a tournament at my local gaming store and I got matched up against an ex-student of mine. I'm a secondary school teacher for context, who had graduated the year previously. They were pretty raw as it was their very first event, making multiple mistakes in terms of core rules and their detachment. I coached him through and helped him out where possible, but ultimately time ran out at the end of turn 4. We came to compare our scores and hit a major discrepancy. I had the result as 9 points win for me, whereas he said he believed that he had won by 26. At that point my competitive streak kicked in, so I had us both go back through each round to compare scores, recounting the key events of the game. After 5 minutes or so, we agreed that he had made errors in a couple of places and that I was correct and had indeed won. Ever since, I have been stressing about whether I should have just let him have it, especially as I had won by 9 points of merit of the fact that I gained a 10-point advantage for having a fully painted army whilst he did not. So yeah, am I the asshole in this situation? So without thinking about it too much, just like off the top of my head, my natural reaction is no, I don't think you're the asshole here. I feel like a lot of the time playing against kids, and especially young adults, can kind of be a tricky ground to navigate. Like, you want them to have fun and to learn and even to sometimes win, to kind of inspire them to come back and keep playing and eventually fall in love with wargaming the way you fell in love with wargaming. And with little kids especially, I think it's totally normal, if not actively encouraged, to kind of bend the rules a little bit and fluff the point counting at the end maybe to occasionally let them win. But when do we decide to kind of stop doing that? That's a good question. At some point you have to transition from teaching the kid just to have fun, to teaching the kid how to play the game, into teaching the kid how to be a good sportsman. And I think that all of these transitional periods come with some trickier moments, like maybe the one that you experienced here. The kid at this point isn't really a child anymore, and they're going to a tournament and they're starting to dip their toes into some more grown-up adult gaming conversations, like having a bit of a disagreement about point scoring at the end of a game. And whilst calling out a child for doing something wrong in a game isn't the most fun thing to do, I do think you did the correct thing. But also I want to say that I think this kid did a really good job by the sounds of it. They turned up to their first tournament and they maybe didn't know everything, but they took on criticism and guidance and they played a game against an adult, and then they had the courage to stand up at the end and say, hey, I don't think we did this right. And even if they were wrong, that took a lot of guts, so good on that kid. And if you're worried that maybe he was a little bit sad or embarrassed by the situation, then that's absolutely fair, because he might have been a little bit, but these are all really good and valuable experiences that hopefully he will take into his next games, and then he will have better experiences because of it in the future. Kids eventually all have to learn to become adults, and that means they also have to learn to play games against adults, and yes, even lose against adults, and that's totally fine. And I think what's more important here is that you gave him a very honest depiction of what it's like to go to a tournament. People are gonna call you out, people are going to be very honest, and if he didn't like that, then maybe he'll come to the realization that the game isn't for him, or if he did like it and he's like, I'm totally okay with this, then this gives him a very honest way to continue doing the hobby, and that's the best thing that you can do. So no, I don't think you're the asshole. I think you did a good job here. Whew, and with that, I think that's all we have time for today. Like I said, I got like 200 of these entries and I really enjoyed reading them all. And if you've gotten this far in the video, first of all, hello. And secondly, let me know if you enjoyed it and if you'd like me to do more things like this in the future. And yeah, please post your own Am I the Asshole Warhammer story below, because like I said, I'm nosy and I just want to read it, so post it. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and as usual, thank you for being rogues and not the asshole. I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Bye bye!